Hi Powon, this is your walk around video to show you all the systems are working and everything is powering up. I'm going to give you some tips as well. First tip would be that it's a painted product, so I would plan your loading and unloading a little more critical than you might, making sure it can go in and out clean because they are susceptible to getting chipped and scratched, especially on the corners and edges. The flat black surfaces, we recommend that you try to avoid touching those. We know you need to get in there to adjust the secondary, but for the most part there's no reason to touch them. And if you want to clean them, we supply black rags. It's actually the drop from the light shroud. Moisten that with a little bit of filtered water and rub lightly, clean the surface, and then just let them air dry. Here I'm going to show you the power system. So this is the power rail. This one all the way in the back is where the power comes in from the ground board. This first one here is the ServoCAT. The second one is the Nexus and the secondary heater. And this one is the fans. This is in the off position right now, so we're going to put it on the ServoCAT. I'll turn the switch on. You can see the red light come on. It's powered up. This one will do the Nexus and the secondary heater. You can see the charge light on the Nexus showing that it's being powered up. I'm going to go up to the secondary dew heater, find that LED. There you can see it on, and it's going to go off once it reaches temp. There it goes. Okay. So those are the power systems. And then the last but not least, we have the fans here. It's going to be a little hard to see maybe. Okay, you can see that fan back in there. Here, let me see if we could get one of the upper ones. Okay, you can see that fan there not moving. Okay, go switch the switch on. And then you can see that it's turned. Switch off, and it stops. The wiring is pretty self-explanatory. You really can't plug anything in the wrong way. I'm going to power down. Never unplug anything when you have power on the scope. So like you could see this one and this one, one's male, one's female, so it can only plug in one way. Okay, same thing with these three. This is these three here. They're all different sizes, so they can only go in one way. This follows around. Some of the wires come off with the podium, and some come off with the encoder on. We just have to see which is which. But again, like if I have things like that, we see black to black. That indicates which way that goes. And we have a plug here for the altitude encoder. These come up the encoder, and then you have one plug back here for the fans, and then the other wire continues on top here, goes up the truss, and then eventually comes out up here on the upper assembly. Altitude and azimuth engage and disengage levers. Should be familiar with these, but on here, about that far is as much as you want to go back when you disengage. Any further than that would only be to take the cable off. This would be engaged. Same thing with azimuth. It's supposed to be on an angle. Down is disengaged, up is engaged. We do it like that so it clears the hole to get the handle in any position. Put that disengaged. Showing here a 17 ethos and a type 1 paracord actually. This is what I'm using to neutral balance the scope, so it should be neutral at this point. Alright, it's important to note that the cable does add drag to the altitude movement. Alright, but I'm going to move the scope up and down. You can see up, down. It's balanced right here, pretty perfect. So eyepieces lighter, eyepiece setups lighter than this are going to be top light, and anything heavier than this will be slightly top heavy, but the servo cat will have no problem lifting it. In the event you see any slippage, these two screws here, you can tighten them down. There's a lot more thread there, putting a little bit more tension on the altitude pulley, and that should stop any slippage. A couple things to remember. On the mirror box cover, there's two knobs. The one outer knob always goes to the back of the scope. We're calling that the back. The front octagon cover, you can see it has 8 of these small thumb screws. You can see the letter F indicating front and the way it goes on. You'll remove that, all 8 of those, and pull that whole plate off with the mirror box cover in the event you want to remove the optic. Worth noting that when adding the upper tube transport mounts, it does make this area in here a little tight. So we recommend putting the altitude varying side trusses on first. Makes it a little easier to get them to. As far as the trusses are concerned, only the one with the wire shown here needs to go to the back of the scope. The other 3 trusses don't matter. Very important that if you decide to remove the altitude encoder for any reason, when you put this in, hand tight only. We flat spot our encoders. There's a grinded flat spot on the shaft. Make sure that's lined up with the set screw, and then hand tight only. Do not put a wrench in there. We're going to go ahead and perform a 2-star alignment, a false 2-star alignment using the Nexus. And one thing I do want to point out is there is a stop, that black thing right there, there's a stop on altitude. So when you bring the scope all the way up to the stop and gently bring it into the stop, indicating zenith, okay, that is actually slightly past 90 degrees. So what we're going to do in our altitude reference, I have, you can see it there, it's at 90.23. So we already have that set in the Nexus. So you bring it to the stop when you do your initialization. I have completed a false 2-star alignment, and first I want to show, I'm going to grab the hand pad. Let me go to more of a wider field. Okay, so slew, we're going to go down. And it's set up to slew at 4 degrees a second. You can change that if you like. Okay, we're going to go clockwise now. Clockwise. Go back up. Okay, just showing that the scope's moving. Now I did do a 2-star alignment. You can see it's on M1. I'm going to hit go to. You can see that it's going to go to in the object. False 2-star, so it'll get close to 0. Did pretty darn good, so zeroed out. And then we will leave it there tracking for a bunch. You'll run it for a day, making sure it's doing all the go-to moves. And that's about it. Everything on the scope really is self-explanatory. You just need to look for it. And the secondary will come mostly collimated, really close, definitely usable. Might need some touching up after transport. And let me know how it goes, and we shall talk soon.